So for me, one of the gifts of the pandemic, and not always a gift, but largely when I look back on the past year, one of the gifts of the pandemic has been spending more time with our children. And I remember this one moment when I was going for a run with William. He runs track in the spring, and last spring he thought perhaps they'd be going back to school and he'd be running track. And so he wanted to stay in shape. So we were running together. And we were side by side, but I could tell that our gait was just a little bit off. He was essentially keeping up with me, and I noticed it, and I just adjusted a little bit so that I was paying attention to running with him rather than having him run with me. I don't know if you've had that experience before, perhaps walking with a toddler or walking with someone who's older than you and just needs a little more time to get from here to there. And as the person who's in some ways in charge there, you can walk at your own pace, but you also can consciously adjust just a little bit so you walk together. I bring this up because we're entering into Holy Week, what Christians call Holy Week, this time of looking at Jesus's final week on earth. And I'm thinking about the idea of Jesus being God with us. God who doesn't say, hey, speed up, be here with me, but actually, I will come and be with you. I will slow down. I will adjust. I will do whatever it takes for us to be side by side together. And I'm thinking especially about Jesus on the cross and the last words, some of the last words of Jesus, which come from Psalm 22. And I'll read them to you. This is just the first line of Psalm 22. My God, why have you forsaken me? Those words were recorded, which is somewhat remarkable, that for all of these generations, that plaintive, desperate, horrific cry of Jesus, that it made it into the Gospels, that it's made it across the centuries. And I think it does give us a sense of Jesus with us in the moments of desperation, in the moments of confusion, in the moments of thinking there is no way that God is nearby, and I feel so alone and so forsaken. But there's something more that's going on in this psalm. The Psalms were the songbook for the Jewish people and for Jesus. And in the same way that if I were to start singing that famous song from the movie Frozen right now, if I were to sing 3 words, let it go, you would be able to fill in more words. You'd be able to fill in a storyline. You'd be able to fill in images from a movie that you perhaps saw too many times. Let it go, just those 3 words would convey an entire story. And similarly, when Jesus, to a group of followers and the people who are by him, cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me? He's calling forth the entire psalm, the entire song. And it is a psalm or a song that is an experience of desperation, an experience of heartbreak. It goes on to just talk about crying out for God and God not answering, and it describes the physical pain that this man endures. I'm a worm and not a man, being mocked, being surrounded by bulls and lions and poured out like water. But then there's this turn in the psalm, and it says, but you, O Lord, be not far off. O my strength, come quickly to help me. It's a crying out to God, and then soon, rescue me. I will declare your name. Praise comes from the lips of this psalmist. And then at the end, all the ends of the earth will remember and turn to the Lord. All the rich of the earth will feast and worship. They will proclaim God's righteousness to a people yet unborn, for he has done it. Jesus is with us in our desperation. He's with us in our suffering, our pain, and our death, and we see that on the cross. But when he cries out in this way, he's also inviting us to be with him, not only in the suffering, not only in the death, the lying in the grave and waiting for God to act, but also in the new creation, the resurrection, in the promise that they will proclaim God's righteousness to a people yet unborn, for God has done it. What has God done? God has done salvation. God has done healing. God has done hope. God has done the promise of a new creation. And God has done everything that love requires in order for us to live with Him and for Him to continue for all eternity to be with us.